When it comes to bringing in your new life, right, and changing habits so that you're bringing in the timeline that you want to bring in for yourself, right, this leveling up process, this reinvention process, or manifestation, right, when you're manifesting the life that you want to bring in, change is needed, right? And this can bring up a thing with time. And sometimes it can be quite an uncomfortable feeling because you can think, if only I'd done this back then, right? The whole beauty of hindsight and that mindset is a tricky one because it can bring up that wound of feeling like, am I late? The truth is we're right on time. I'm a true believer of this, right? I made a video yesterday about plateauing. So those of you who have seen that video, I talked about now's the time to remain the student of life and level up in these different areas of your life so that you're creating this lifestyle for yourself that you really want to create for yourself, but also that you're staying humble and recognizes the areas for growth, right? And this can be small things, it can be big things, but now is the time we're supported right now to be making these small changes, these changes in our habits. But as I said, this can bring up the whole wound of time. If only I'd done this previously, where would I be now, and etc. So, especially for those of you that are ruled by Saturn in your astrology, Saturn's the ruler of time. Therefore, it's quite common that those that have that or are ruled by Saturn can have little wounds or lessons to do with time. A lot of it can be like taking back your time, feeling like you've got enough time and you're not running out of time. These sorts of things. So, I've had this recently, right? When you're living up certain things, I have thought to myself, oh wow, if only I just carried on that level of practice or that level of study throughout these past years, I would be a lot further on in that journey. And of course, right, that is the case. But this is enough of an inspiration to act now, right? To not keep pushing things further down the line. So then you're going to look back on the days you live in now and think, wow, if only I had made the changes then, right? It's an ongoing thing, yet we can get caught up in the past without recognizing that this is enough inspiration to act now, and start making these changes now. And that's a real positive thing. If you think now, whatever age you're at, if you think in 10 years time, if you really start making the changes now, maybe it's learning a new skill set or diving in and studying something that sparks passion or interest in you. If you do that now, in 10 years time, to be 10 years deep into that journey, right, is exciting. Right, and it's enough of an inspiration for you to act now, rather than staying in the past and thinking, I've let all these years pass without diving into this interest of mine. Now is the time to pick this back up. Maybe you're revisiting an old skill set or an old interest, or recognizing that I still have that burning desire inside, or that interest is enough within me for me to now dive into it and do it. You'll thank yourself when you look back in the future, when you look back on this time. I'm grateful that I started certain things from a young age, but if I'd carried on that level of practice all throughout my life, of course I'd be a better, more skilled in that field, right? Now, it's important to be kind to yourself in this, right? Don't beat yourself up. It's life, and the reality of it is you're right on track, and the fact that you haven't maybe started or maintained that level of practice or change or putting in these habits probably suggests that you had other lessons to learn, other things to go off and dive into, and life's like that, right? We're not perfect. It's kind of like perfectly imperfect. We have to go through these different chapters and get pulled in these different areas in life to learn what we're here to learn, and that's a big part of it. But that also can show you that you do have the power to decide how you spend your time and what do you want to spend your time doing. So don't let time or that hindsight mindset put you off even more. If only I'd done this back then, where would I be now? Take that and use that and think, right, if I start now in 10 years time, where will I be? Right, that's enough of an inspiration. That's enough of a motivation for you to recognize that, wow, I do have the power now to really start leveling up these things and putting new habits in place. And as I've said a couple of times, now is the time to do that. So take that and run with it, right? Really make that change now. It's interesting. It's a bit like we as humans, sometimes when you're in your lowest moments, right, when you're really in the depths of these things, it's then where you can see and feel enough of that passion and inspiration and motivation to make big change. And in many ways it makes sense that we have to get to that level to then really start seeing that and feel it to that height for you to really start thinking, I'm done with that, right? I'm ready for change. I've got to the depths of it. I'm done. I'm over. No more am I there. And this is a bit similar, right? You can kick yourself or think what if, without recognizing that, right, I'm done with that story of what ifs. Let's try. It's quite cliche sayings, right? Like, without trying, you're never going to know, right? You'd always wonder. You'd rather try and put the time there. And this isn't about being perfect or failing, right? It's all about just doing what brings you joy. You know, find those things that bring you joy and commit to them and make them a part of your daily routine, right? Even if it's 10 minutes, find that time to fuel yourself with that positivity of being the student and exploring it, you know? There's always these what ifs. What if I'd done this? What if I'd done that? So bring that to today, bring that to now and think, right, yeah, what if I start now? Where will I be further down the line if I continue this interest, continue pursuing this interest and doing the things that I'm really passionate about, right? Know that you're worthy of that. Know that you can make that change, and it can just be habits, the way you see the world, but also putting time into a certain skill set, learning a certain thing that really excites you and everything else, right? And don't be fearful of being that student, you know? Don't be fearful of starting from scratch and worrying if you're going to be bad or where it's going to lead, because it's not about that, right? It's literally about doing the things that really fuel you in a positive way. 2026 is set up to be quite a wild year, and that doesn't necessarily have to be negative. So much so, I think that it's kind of a positive thing to now be focusing on this new world that you're bringing in, whilst all this change is going on, all this story is unraveling in the big wide world. It's a perfect opportunity. Not only the planet's aligned for it, but without that, just it's a perfect opportunity to really focus on you and start doing the things that you're going to be pleased that you do with your time, you know, rather than another year passing by where you think, didn't quite start that, you know. Start small, be consistent, you know, and fall in love with that process of being the student, starting from basics, you know. It's crazy how much as humans we develop and learn and grow when we just do little and often, you know. It's all about just starting and knowing that you're worthy of that start, and not feeling that you're too late, you know. You're not too late, everything's right on track, and so much so it's led you to this point now, so that you can start these things that maybe are burning deep inside of you, or if you were truthful with yourself, you know, if you ask yourself, you know what, I'd really like to do that, you know. Don't worry about career in terms of like making it a career or being very good at it, but no, in my spare time I'd like to be someone that does this. Then do it. Now's the time to do it. And in a year's time, in 5 years time, in 10 years time, the growth that you have made, as we know as humans, is inevitable and massive, right? So it can be a bit of a wound, right, when you think, if only I'd done this, if only I'd done that. But just remember, you're right on track, you're right on time, and all these little lessons and distractions, you know, are all part of the story that have led you to now to be able to really start putting into place all the things that you've learned and all the things that you've learned about yourself and the lifestyle that you want to bring in for yourself. What person do you want to be? Who do you want to be? Do you want to be the person that works on their craft, dives into their passions and joys, and does the things that fuels them in a positive way? Because you're going to thank yourself if you do that, right? The difference between going off and doing something in that spare 10 minutes or a half hour that doesn't really fuel you in any way, probably drains you, versus doing something that really tops you up of energy, gives you ideas, gives you life force, sparks you in such a positive way. The difference between that choice is massive day to day. Your vibration will skyrocket when you're doing that, when you're following those joys, you're following those interests and that purpose, you know, versus just laying dormant, plateauing and not feeling like you're worthy, or having to get up and go to actually go and make it happen. You know, start small, 10 minutes, do that thing, put some time into it, study it, learn it, listen to it, immerse yourself in it, and then you fall in love with that process. It quickly snowballs. It's about creating that environment, or the environment will then be created by making these small choices that everything fuels that journey, that process of you following the things that really get you going in a positive way, or that you feel is the purpose of yours, right? So it doesn't take long. It can feel like a mountain to climb at the start. It's like the longer you go without doing exercise, it can feel kind of a big deal to get back into that exercising. When you're doing it every day or 4 or 5 times a week, it's not a big thing, you know. It's really not a big thing to start working out again. You're in that. It's like a well-oiled machine. So it can be that leap at the start of actually just accepting that I'm worthy of it, and I've got enough of an interest and a passion in this to start diving into it. I'm going to fill my time with those things that are positive for me. You know, it's all about learning what sparks that interest in us, what sparks that passion, that purpose, that joy within us, because they're the things that we should be doing. We can get caught up in everything else being more important. Yeah, if you actually give yourself what you want in those areas of time, in those times in your day where you can, that's massive. To be following that, to be pursuing that. And don't forget that a lot of us have these things, if not all of us have these things that we have a special interest in, a special passion in, or skill set in, or talent in, where if you was to pursue that rather than worrying that now's not the right time, or if only you'd done it back then, is massive. You know, these are the ways that you can really start changing your life and your general vibration, and what your bringing in for yourself, right? When you're pursuing these things, the people that you surround yourself by within that particular field, the people that you're then going to go and meet, when you start flowing with this interest, you know, flow down river with where your passions are and where this joy is, knowing that you're worthy of it, and that if you start now, it's the perfect time to start, and you're not putting it off, to then have that feeling of maybe regret or feeling like, what if I had done that, you know? Time is a funny one. We get caught up in what ifs or everything else, but the reality of it is all we have to do is control now, control today, flow with today, flow with now, and work out exactly what it is that interests you, that sparks joy, and your life will change. This is a big part of simplifying manifestation, right? And just generally aligning with your true self, the purpose that you're here to do. We all have these little nuances within our characters that support certain things, and it starts with a little bit of interest, right? A little bit of joy. And you'll go to bed with a smile on your face when you're pursuing these little things, and it's not about being good or anything else, right? That's just a journey that's going to unravel in its own time. The more you do it, that's inevitable. But the fulfillment that you'll feel going to bed, having spent some time on these things that you feel like you're here to do, and allowing yourself that time to think, yeah, I'm worthy of jumping into that and exploring that, and having fun painting, having fun setting up this idea, or exploring this, or studying this. Those things that keep your mind in a good place, right, is massive. And even on a small scale, when you spend the time doing things that aren't this, in those times where you're faced with the decision every day of, you can just go and maybe sit and not do much that's going to not fuel you in a good way or add much to your life, versus if you pick those moments to do the things that do add a lot to your life and keep the mind in a positive place of growing and learning and exploring, the difference is crazy. Every day we're faced with these moments where you can choose and decide. And when you are shining a light onto those areas and picking the moments is a big one, right? Now's a good time to actually start writing, or good time to do a little bit of painting, or put some time into setting up this idea that I've had for many years, or start learning an instrument, you know? When you start picking those moments, the mind starts working in a different way, and you feel that, you know? And you'll thank yourself for doing that, rather than maybe just watching TV and zoning out too much, right? You can zone out in this new passion and purpose, zone out in the things that actually give you joy, that actually keep your mind in a good place. It can become like meditation, and being the student of it, falling in love with that journey of just learning and exploring is a meditation in itself. And it's going to keep the mind going to the things of growth in that areas, the things you've learned, the things you want to try. You'd rather be thinking about those things other than the negative things in life, right? The drama, there's enough of that. There's enough of problem solving to sort out. So have some problem solving within your craft, within your passion, within your interest, and this will be a massive change and a very good step to take when it comes to aligning with your true self and your passion and your purpose, and manifesting the new life that you want, you know? Start picking the moments to dive into those things in your day that are going to catapult you forward in that journey, right? Rather than keep putting it off. I can't express enough how much these times we're living in right now are supporting this. Do the things that fuel you in a positive way. Do the things that bring you joy, and dare to be free, you know? Dare to do it. Be that guy that actually pursues it and follows it, and watch your being shift, watch your mind shift into a positive place, watch the passion and the purpose that fuels once you actually ignite it and follow it, you know? It's exciting. We've got all this time, and we get drawn into these different areas of our responsibilities, which of course is part of being human on this earth. We've got things to deal with, to attend to, people to help, and that's a good big part of being human, right? Turning up in those areas. So when you get those moments where it's now about you and what you do with your time, fuel yourself in that way of doing positive things for yourself, right? And only you know what these things are. So then dive into, where do you get joy? What sparks a little bit of interest? What would you be fascinated to dive into? You know, there's so much out there to explore. It's endless. It really, really is. And there's levels to all of this stuff, right? Where once you start that journey, that's endless as well. There's constant growth there. So enjoy it, but recognize that time passing by, or that slight feeling of regret, where we can look back and think, if only I continued that or carried that on, if only I dived back into that then, where I'd be now. Use that to catapult yourself into making this change, to actually start exploring these things now, and taking time out of your day to give yourself that time to dive into the things that you want to do. making these small habits rather than doing something else that doesn't fuel you in any way is a big part, and will play a big part in catapulting yourself into this new life and this new version of yourself that so many are going through right now. It's just about picking the moments and recognizing what those things are to do in those moments, and then watch your brain shift into such a more of a positive place, because you're pursuing the things that interest you, that you're here to do, that you've got a special gift in, and that gift is alone just interest. This thing interests me, therefore I'm going to go and explore it. Enjoy the process, stay the student of life, and don't worry about time, but use that as motivation to act and recognize where you can be and how you can be doing the things that bring you joy on a regular basis, rather than keep putting that off and neglecting that part of you, that part of your soul's journey that's here to explore it. It's endless fun waiting for you and endless growth. Take care.